I Googled my fiancé's name to find his childhood photos for our wedding slideshow. I found his obituary instead. David Matthews, beloved son and brother, died March 15, 2019 in a tragic car accident. The problem? I met David in 2021, and he was sitting right next to me on the couch. My name is Claire, and for 2 years, I'd been living what I thought was a fairy tale romance. I met David Matthews in the summer of 2021 at a coffee shop in Portland. I was working on my laptop, he was reading a book about architecture, and when he asked if he could share my table, I said yes. We talked for 4 hours that first day. About everything. Books, travel, childhood dreams, our biggest fears. He was thoughtful, attentive, funny in a quiet way that made you lean in to catch his jokes. He had kind eyes and this habit of really listening when you talked, like every word mattered. I feel like I've known you forever, he said at the end of that first conversation. I was just thinking the same thing, I admitted. We started dating immediately. No games, no playing it cool. Just two people who'd found each other and didn't want to waste time pretending otherwise. David was a freelance graphic designer who worked from home. He didn't have social media, said he valued privacy too much. His family lived on the East Coast, and he wasn't close with them. Childhood stuff, he'd explained vaguely. Some families are just complicated, you know? I knew. My own family was a mess of dysfunction and drama. Maybe that's why David and I connected so deeply. We were both building chosen families instead of relying on the ones we were born into. He moved into my apartment after 6 months. Proposed after 18 months. We'd set a wedding date for October 2023, just a few months away. Everything was perfect. Until I decided to make that slideshow. It was a Thursday night in July. David was next to me on the couch, sketching ideas for a client project. I was on my laptop, working on our wedding slideshow, one of those montages that plays during the reception, showing the couple's journey from childhood to present day. I had plenty of photos of us together, but I realized I didn't have any childhood photos of David. He'd mentioned he didn't keep many, that his past wasn't something he liked dwelling on. Hey, I said, nudging him, do you have any photos from when you were a kid? For the slideshow? He looked up from his sketch. I don't really have any, babe. Sorry, none? Not even one? My family wasn't big on photos, and the ones that existed, I left them behind when I moved away. It wasn't the first time he'd been vague about his past, but something about it bothered me this time. We were getting married in 3 months. Didn't I deserve to see at least one baby picture? What if I try to find some online? I suggested. Sometimes there are old school photos or sports team pictures floating around the internet. David's expression shifted slightly. You really don't need to. It'll just take a second. I was already typing his name into Google. David Matthews, Portland. Claire, really, it's not necessary. But I'd already hit enter. The search results loaded, and there, on the first page, was an obituary. Matthews, David James, age 32. Died suddenly March 15, 2019, in a tragic automobile accident. Beloved son of Margaret and James Matthews, devoted brother to Sarah Matthews. David was a talented architect whose creativity and kindness touched everyone who knew him. A memorial service will be held at Riverside Funeral Home. I stared at the screen. March 15, 2019. I'd met David in July 2021, 2 years after he'd supposedly died. Claire, you okay? David's voice seemed to come from very far away. I turned the laptop toward him slowly. Is this some kind of coincidence? He looked at the screen. All the color drained from his face. Because that's you, right? Same name, same age, same. I scrolled down. There was a photo. The obituary photo. It was him. Younger, maybe. Different haircut. But unmistakably David. I can explain, he whispered. Explain what? Explain how you died 4 years ago? My voice was rising. Explain how I've been living with a ghost? I'm not dead, obviously. Then why is there an obituary? I was shouting now, standing up, backing away from him. Why does the internet think you died in 2019? David set down his sketchbook carefully. His hands were shaking. Because I faked my death. The words hung in the air like smoke. You what? I faked my death. In 2019. I had to disappear. Why? Why would you? Because I owed money to people. Dangerous people. The kind who don't accept payment plans. He stood up, trying to approach me, but I held up my hand. Don't come near me right now. Claire, please, let me explain. You've had 2 years to explain. We're getting married in 3 months, and you never thought to mention, oh, by the way, honey, I'm legally dead? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. I grabbed my phone. I'm calling the police. And tell them what? That your fiancé faked his death? They'll investigate. They'll find out everything. About the money I owed. About the people I was running from. And then those people will find out I'm alive. He looked genuinely terrified. Claire, those people will kill me. For real this time. I lowered my phone slightly. What did you do? What kind of money are we talking about? Gambling debt. A lot of it. I had a problem. A serious problem. I lost everything. My savings, my apartment, my car, and then I started borrowing from the wrong people. By the time I realized how deep I was, I owed $200,000 to a loan shark connected to organized crime. My head was spinning. $200,000? I couldn't pay it back. They were threatening my family. My sister Sarah, his voice broke. They showed up at her work. Told her what would happen to her if I didn't pay. I couldn't let them hurt her because of my mistakes. So you faked your death. I staged a car accident, drove my car off a cliff near the coast, made it look like I didn't survive, went through back channels to get a death certificate issued, had a funeral and everything. Your family thinks you're dead? He nodded, tears streaming down his face now. My mom, my dad, my sister, they all buried me. They grieved for me, and I've been alive this whole time, living 3,000 miles away under my own name because I'm legally deceased. I sank back onto the couch. My legs giving out. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. I know. We can't get married. You can't legally marry me because you're dead. I know. Everything about us is built on a lie. Not everything. He knelt in front of me. My feelings for you are real. The life we've built is real. I'm real, Claire. I'm just complicated. I looked at this man I thought I knew. This man I'd agreed to spend my life with. This stranger. I need you to leave. I said quietly, Claire. Get out. Now. I need to think. After David left, I did what any rational person would do in 2023 when they discover their fiancé is supposed to be dead. I went down an internet rabbit hole. I found the original news article about the accident. Local man dies in tragic crash off Highway 101. There was a photo of a car being pulled from the water. Quotes from the sheriff's department about the dangerous curves on that stretch of road. I found David's obituary in 3 different newspapers, all identical, all listing the same family members, the same funeral home. I found his old LinkedIn profile, last updated in March 2019. It showed him working as an architect at a firm in Boston, exactly like he'd told me. I found his sister Sarah's Facebook page. It was public. I scrolled back to March 2019. There were dozens of posts about David, RIP messages from friends, Sarah's own posts about grief, about losing her brother, about how unfair it was that he'd died so young. One post, dated March 20, 2019, stopped me cold. I don't know how to exist in a world without my big brother. David was supposed to walk me down the aisle at my wedding next year. He was supposed to meet my kids someday. He was supposed to be there for all of it. And now he's just gone. I keep thinking he's going to call me, that this is all a terrible mistake. But it's not. He's really gone. I stared at that post for a long time. David had let his sister believe he was dead, had let her grieve, had missed her wedding. I scrolled forward and found photos from 2020 of Sarah getting married, crying in almost every picture. What kind of person does that? I couldn't sleep that night. By 3 a.m., I was still on my laptop, digging deeper. I started searching for the people David claimed he'd owed money to. Loan sharks in Boston, organized crime connections. And that's when I found something that changed everything. A news article from April 2019, 1 month after David's supposed death. Boston man arrested in loan sharking operation. I read the article 3 times to make sure I understood. The FBI had busted a major loan sharking ring in Boston in April 2019. Multiple arrests, assets seized. The operation had been under investigation for 2 years, which meant that by April 2019, 1 month after David died, the people he claimed to be running from were in federal prison. He could have come back. He could have told his family the truth. But he didn't. I checked the date again. April 2019. The arrests were public record. David had to have known. Anyone who'd been involved with these loan sharks would have heard about the busts. It was major news in Boston. So why had he stayed dead? David came back the next morning. I'd texted him at 4 a.m. "We need to talk." He looked like he hadn't slept either. "The loan sharks were arrested in April 2019, I said before he could even sit down. "1 month after you faked your death. You could have come back." His face told me everything I needed to know. "You knew," I said. "You knew they were in prison, and you stayed dead anyway. It's not that simple." "Stop saying that. Everything with you is not that simple. Try making something simple for once. Tell me the truth. Why didn't you come back when the danger was gone?" David sat down slowly. "Because by then, I'd realized something." "But what?" "That I didn't want to go back." The silence was deafening. "I didn't want to be that person anymore," he continued. "The gambling addict, the screw-up, the disappointment. My whole life in Boston was just failure after failure. My family looked at me with pity. My friends had stopped calling. I'd destroyed every relationship I had. And then I had this chance to start over. To be someone new. You weren't someone new. You were just you, without the consequences." "Exactly." He looked at me with something like defiance. "I got to be me without all the baggage. Without the mistakes. I moved to Portland, started freelancing, built a life I actually liked. And then I met you. And for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw something worth loving. I loved a lie, David. I loved who you pretended to be. I wasn't pretending. This is who I really am. The person in Boston, the gambler, the debtor, the coward who faked his death, that wasn't the real me. It absolutely was the real you." I was shouting again. "That's who you are? Someone who lies and runs away instead of facing consequences. Someone who let his family grieve for him because it was easier than admitting his mistakes. They're better off thinking I'm dead." "Are they? Really? Your sister got married without you. Your parents buried their son. They've spent 4 years grieving, and you think that's better than just being honest?" "Yes." He stood up now too. "You didn't see what I put them through before. The lies, the borrowed money, the broken promises. My mom couldn't look at me without crying. My dad stopped talking to me entirely. Sarah had to change her phone number because debt collectors wouldn't stop calling. I destroyed them slowly. At least this way, it was quick. They got to grieve and move on instead of watching me destroy myself. That's what you tell yourself so you can sleep at night. Maybe, but it's also true." We stood there, both breathing hard, both furious and heartbroken. "I love you," David said quietly. "That part is real. What we have is real. We can't even legally get married. We can have a ceremony. It doesn't have to be legal to be real. Listen to yourself. Everything about you is fake. Your legal status, your relationship with your family, your entire identity. And now you want our marriage to be fake too? It wouldn't be fake. We'd be committed to each other. We'd build a life together. Isn't that what matters?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Could I marry someone who was legally dead? Could I build a life with someone who'd abandoned everyone who'd ever loved him? Could I trust someone whose first instinct, when things got hard, was to disappear? "No," I said finally. "I can't do this, Claire. I need you to leave. For real this time. Pack your stuff and go." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know, David. Fake your death again. You're good at that." David moved out that day. Took his clothes, his laptop, his sketches. Left the engagement ring on the kitchen counter. I called off the wedding. Sent messages to the 50 people we'd invited, making up some vague excuse about irreconcilable differences. My best friend Maya came over that night with wine and ice cream. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. When I finished, she just stared at me. "He's legally dead?" "Yep." "And he just stayed dead? Even after the danger passed?" "Yep, Claire. You dodged a nuclear missile." "I know. Do you? Because you look sad, and you should be relieved. This man abandoned his grieving family and lied to you for 2 years. He was going to let you marry a ghost." "I know," I said again. "But I loved him. I loved who I thought he was." "Who you thought he was doesn't exist. He's a fantasy. The real David is the guy who fakes his death rather than face his problems." She was right. I knew she was right. But it still hurt. A week later, I was still thinking about David's family. His mother, who'd buried her son. His sister, who'd gotten married without her brother there. His father, who'd stopped talking to him even before he died. They all thought he was dead. And he was alive, living in Portland, designing logos for tech startups. Did they deserve to know the truth? I created a fake Facebook account and looked at Sarah's page again. She posted regularly. Photos of her husband, their dog, her job as a teacher. Happy pictures. Mostly. But every year on March 15th, she posted a memorial for David. This year's said, 4 years without you, big brother. I miss you every day. I talk to you sometimes, even though I know you can't hear me. I hope wherever you are, you're at peace. He could hear her. He was alive, and he was choosing not to tell her. I drafted a message to Sarah 100 times. Your brother is alive. He faked his death. He's in Portland. But I never sent it. Was it my place to blow up their lives all over again? To tell them that their grief was based on a lie? That David had chosen to let them suffer instead of facing his mistakes? Or was it cruel to tell them? Would knowing the truth make things better or worse? I called Maya again. What do I do? I asked. Do I tell them? I don't know, she admitted. That's above my pay grade. Maybe you should talk to a therapist. So I did. Dr. Chen's office was calm and neutral. Exactly what I needed. I told her everything. The whole insane story. What do you think I should do? I asked. About his family. What do you want to do? I don't know. Part of me thinks they deserve to know. But another part of me thinks telling them would just cause more pain. Let me ask you this, Dr. Chen said. Why do you feel responsible for this decision? Because I know the truth. I'm the only one who knows besides David. And why does that make it your responsibility to share? I thought about it. Because keeping the secret makes me complicit. Like I'm helping him lie. Are you helping him lie? Or are you just choosing not to insert yourself into a situation that doesn't involve you? But it does involve me. I was going to marry him. I almost became part of this family, almost. But you didn't. You ended the relationship. You're not obligated to manage David's relationships with his family. But they're suffering. They were suffering before you knew the truth. You knowing doesn't change their situation. It only changes yours. I sat with that for a moment. So you're saying I should do nothing? I'm saying you should think about your motivations. Are you considering telling them because it would genuinely help them? Or because you're angry at David and want him to face consequences? That hit hard. Maybe both, I admitted. That's honest. And that's exactly why you should be very careful about what you do next. Revenge disguised as altruism rarely ends well. I spent another week wrestling with the decision. Finally, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I called the Riverside Funeral Home in Boston, the one that had handled David's funeral. Hi. I'm calling about a service you handled in 2019. David Matthews? Oh yes, the woman said. Tragic case. So young. Are you family? Friend. I was just wondering. I'm putting together a memorial scholarship in his name. Do you have contact information for his parents? I wanted to include them in the planning. It was a lie. But at this point, what was one more? She gave me Margaret Matthews' phone number. I stared at it for 3 days. Then I picked up the phone and called. Hello. The woman's voice was warm but tired. Like someone who'd carried grief for so long it became part of her. Hi. Is this Margaret Matthews? Yes. Who's calling? I almost hung up. Almost chickened out. My name is Claire. This is going to sound strange, but I need to talk to you about your son David. Silence. Then, my son passed away 4 years ago. I know. That's what I need to talk to you about. I don't understand. Mrs. Matthews, I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to think I'm insane. But I need you to hear me out. Can you do that? I suppose. David is alive. I heard her sharp intake of breath. He's alive, I continued quickly. He faked his death in 2019. He staged the car accident. He's been living in Portland, Oregon under his own name because he's legally deceased. I know this because I was engaged to him until a few weeks ago when I found his obituary online. The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Mrs. Matthews? This is a very cruel joke, she said, her voice shaking. It's not a joke. I wish it was. I have photos, texts, everything. He told me he did it because of gambling debts. Because he owed money to dangerous people. But those people were arrested a month after he faked his death. And he just stayed dead. He's been alive this whole time. Why are you telling me this? She was crying now. Because I thought you deserved to know. I thought about not telling you, about just moving on with my life. But if someone had let my child believe I was dead for 4 years when I was alive, I'd want to know. I don't believe you. I can prove it. I can send you photos, screenshots of our messages, anything you need. No. Her voice was firm now. Numb. I buried my son. I grieved for my son. I've spent 4 years learning to live without him. And now you call me out of nowhere claiming he's alive? Based on what? A man you met who happens to have the same name? It's not just the same name, it's the same person. I don't care. She was getting angry now. Even if what you're saying is true, and I don't believe it is, but even if it were, what am I supposed to do with that information? Call him? Show up at his door? Demand to know why he let me think he was dead? Maybe? Yes. Doesn't he owe you that? He doesn't owe me anything anymore. He's dead. That's the only truth I can live with. But, listen to me very carefully. I have spent 4 years putting my life back together. My marriage almost didn't survive David's death. My daughter still sees a therapist. I finally reached a place where I can get through a day without crying. And you want me to tear all of that open again? For what? To learn that my son is alive but chose not to tell me? That's worse than death. I hadn't thought about it that way. So you don't want to know the truth? The truth won't set me free. It'll just give me a new prison. At least now, I can remember David as my son who died tragically. If what you're saying is true, I'd have to remember him as the son who abandoned me, who let me bury an empty casket, who attended his own funeral from afar and didn't say a word. Her voice broke completely. So no, I don't want your truth. I want my grief. At least grief makes sense. At least grief doesn't require me to hate my own child. She hung up. I sat there, holding my phone, realizing I'd just made everything so much worse. Dr. Chen was not happy with me when I told her what I'd done. You called his mother, yes. After we discussed your motivations for getting involved, I thought she deserved to know. Did you? Or did you think David deserved to be exposed? I didn't answer. Claire, you took a decision that wasn't yours to make. You inserted yourself into a family dynamic you don't understand, with information that David had every right to keep private. He faked his death. He doesn't have a right to privacy about that. Actually, he does. He's not committing a crime. He's not hurting anyone currently. He made choices about his own life and his own relationships. You disagreed with those choices, so you took it upon yourself to correct them. His mother had a right to know her son is alive. Did she? Because from what you told me, she explicitly said she didn't want to know. She asked you to leave her alone, and you violated that boundary. Shame washed over me. I thought I was helping. No, you didn't. You thought you were punishing David, and you used his mother as the weapon. She was right. I told myself I was doing the noble thing, giving David's family closure. But really, I'd been angry, hurt, and I'd wanted David to hurt too. And now his mother was probably having the worst day of her life, 4 years after burying her son. Because of me. 3 days later, David called me. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. What the hell did you do? His voice was shaking with rage. I told your mother the truth. You had no right. You had no right to let her think you were dead. That was my choice, my relationship with my family, my decision about what to tell them. And it was my decision to tell them the truth. You don't get a monopoly on choices here, David. She called me. His voice broke. My mother called me. Do you know what that was like? Hearing her voice for the first time in 4 years? She was screaming, crying. She called me a monster. She said she wished I actually had died because at least then she could remember me without hating me. I felt sick. She told me she never wants to hear from me again, that I'm dead to her now in a way I wasn't before. At least when she thought I was dead, she could love me. Now she despises me, David. My sister called too. She's furious. She said I ruined her wedding, her marriage, her entire 20s because she was grieving a brother who was alive the whole time. She told me I'm a stranger to her. They deserved to know. They deserved to heal. And they had. They'd moved on. And you ripped that away from them because you were mad at me. I was trying to. You were trying to hurt me. And congratulations, Claire. You did. You destroyed what was left of my family. I hope it was worth it. He hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, realizing he was right. I'd told myself I was doing the right thing, but I'd really just weaponized the truth. And now everyone was worse off. Maya came over again. I was crying on my couch, surrounded by tissues. His family hates him now, I said. Because of me. They hated him before. They just didn't know they did. That's not the same. Before, they had the comfort of thinking he was dead. Now they know he chose to leave them. He did choose to leave them. But I didn't have to tell them. I could have just moved on with my life and let them keep their grief. Claire. Maya sat next to me. Do you want to know what I really think? Yes. I think you're not upset because you told them. You're upset because they reacted badly. If David's mom had been grateful, if she'd thanked you for telling her, you'd feel vindicated right now. But she wasn't grateful. She was devastated. And now you have to face the fact that you caused that devastation. I thought I was helping. You thought you were getting revenge. And revenge always feels righteous in the moment and hollow afterwards. I knew she was right. What do I do now? Nothing. You've done enough. Let them figure out their family drama without you. But I caused this? Numb. David caused this when he faked his death. You just brought it to light. What they do with that information is up to them. Not you. 6 months passed. I didn't hear from David again. I blocked his number, deleted our photos, threw away the engagement ring. I moved on. Started dating someone new. A teacher named Ryan who was refreshingly normal. His family was alive and he talked to them regularly. He had photos from his childhood. His past wasn't a mystery or a minefield. It was boring. It was stable. It was exactly what I needed. But I thought about David's family sometimes. Wondered how they were doing. If they'd forgiven him. If they'd ever spoken to him again. One day, curiosity got the better of me. I looked at Sarah's Facebook page again. Her most recent post stopped me cold. It was a photo of her with an older couple, her parents, presumably. And next to them, looking uncomfortable and sad, was David. The caption read, "Family therapy is hard. Rebuilding trust is harder. But we're trying. Because blood is complicated, and love is messier than we ever thought. Still not okay. But we're here." She'd tagged David in it. His profile was new. Created recently. Only 2 posts, both about second chances and facing your mistakes. They were talking again. Not reconciled. Not healed. But talking. I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Relief that maybe I hadn't completely destroyed their family. Guilt that I'd forced this confrontation. Sadness that David had to face consequences I'd manufactured. But also, something like hope. Maybe the truth was worth it. Not because it felt good, but because it was real. And real, messy, complicated relationships are built on truth, not comfortable lies. A year after I'd found David's obituary, I got an email from Margaret Matthews. Subject line, "Thank you." I opened it with shaking hands. "Dear Claire." I thought about writing this email 100 times before I actually did it. I'm still not sure it's the right thing to do. But my therapist says I should try to find closure. And maybe this is part of that. When you called me a year ago and told me David was alive, I hated you. I wished you'd never called. I wished I could go back to my comfortable grief instead of facing the complicated truth. But over this past year, I've realized something. You gave me back my son. Not the version of him I'd idealized in death. Not the perfect memory I'd constructed. But the real, flawed, complicated person he actually is. We've been in family therapy for 8 months now. It's brutal. David has had to face what he did. The pain he caused, the years we lost, the trust he destroyed. And we've had to face our part in it too. The way we made him feel like he couldn't come to us with his problems. The way we shut down instead of helping when he was struggling. I don't know if we'll ever fully heal. David's relationship with his father is still incredibly strained. Sarah has good days and bad days. And me? I'm still grieving. But now I'm grieving the time we lost. Not the son I thought I'd never see again. I have my son back. He's damaged. We're all damaged. But he's alive. And alive means there's still possibility. So thank you. For making the hard choice. For telling me something I didn't want to hear but needed to know. I hope you found peace too, Margaret. I read the email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and cried. Not sad tears. Not happy tears. Just release. 2 years after finding the obituary, I ran into David at a coffee shop in Portland. The same coffee shop where we'd met. The irony wasn't lost on either of us, Claire. He looked different. Older. More grounded somehow. David. Hi. Can we talk? Just for a minute? I almost said no. But something made me sit down. I'm back in contact with my family, he said. I assume you know that. Your mom sent me an email a while ago. She told me. I wanted to reach out then, but I thought you might not want to hear from me. I didn't. I don't. But I'm here now, so talk. He took a breath. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For lying to you. For putting you in that position. For making you feel like you had to be the one to tell my family. You didn't make me do anything. I chose to tell them. That's on me. Still, I'm sorry for all of it. You deserved better. Yeah, I did. We sat in silence for a moment. Are you happy? He asked. I heard you're with someone new. I am. His name is Ryan. He's a teacher. Very normal. Very alive. I smiled slightly. You? Single. Probably will be for a while. Turns out I faked my death and lied to everyone I loved isn't great for dating profiles. Despite everything, I laughed. I'm glad you told them, David said suddenly. My family. I was furious at the time. But you were right. They deserved to know. And I was too much of a coward to tell them myself. You're telling them now. That counts. Does it? I don't know. I feel like I'll be making it up to them for the rest of my life. Probably. But at least you have the rest of your life to do it. Because you're alive. Not dead. That's something. Yeah, it is. He stood up to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, Claire, everything I felt for you was real. I know I lied about everything else, but that part was true. I believe you. But it doesn't change anything. I know. He left. I sat there for a long time, drinking my coffee, thinking about truth and lies and the complicated space between them. 3 years after finding David's obituary, I got married. To Ryan. The teacher with the normal family and the documented past. It was a small wedding. 50 people. My family, his family, close friends. No drama. No revelations. No one showed up who wasn't supposed to be there. It was perfectly, wonderfully boring. During the reception, Maya pulled me aside. You doing okay? Yeah. Why? I just thought you might be thinking about, the one who got away. David didn't get away. I threw him back. She laughed. Fair enough. But yeah, I do think about him sometimes. About his family. About whether telling them was the right thing. And I still don't know. Maybe there's no right answer. Maybe sometimes you just have to make a choice and live with the consequences. Deep. Very philosophical for your wedding day. Shut up. I hugged her. Thank you. For being there through all of it. Always. Ryan found me a few minutes later, pulled me onto the dance floor. What were you and Maya talking about? He asked. Old ghosts. Should I be worried? Nope. They're laid to rest. I'd loved David. I'd hated David. I'd tried to save David's family and ended up nearly destroying them. But through it all, I'd learned something important. Some people are meant to be in your life forever. And some people are meant to teach you what you don't want. David was the latter. And I was grateful for the lesson, even if it nearly broke me. Because it led me here. To this man, this moment, this simple, honest, beautifully boring life. Where no one was hiding. Where everyone was alive. Where the truth was just the truth. No obituaries. No secrets. No ghosts. Just life. Real, messy, complicated, wonderful life. The truth that hurts the most is the truth that sets you free. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually. Truth always does.